Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Sweet Fire Soul Revival YouTube channel. My name is Joe. If we have never met before, welcome. And if we have, welcome back. So, this week's training is all about boundaries. So, have you ever been in a position where you either felt like you couldn't set a boundary, set the boundary but didn't uphold it, or didn't really know how to set the boundary in the first place? I've been in all of those positions at one point in time. But I specifically want to talk today about setting boundaries, especially around relationships, family, and our jobs, right? Because I feel like those are the three places in which we feel like we can't set boundaries, right? Which is ridiculous. We can literally set boundaries around anything at any given moment in time. It's just up to us to realize, oh, I'm the only one standing in my way from setting this boundary. But sometimes I think that we neglect to do that because we're afraid. It's our family. We're supposed to. We have a sense of obligation. Or because it's our partner. Or because it's our job. And those are really the things that I feel like require the most boundary setting, right? Because these are all situations in which we feel like, well, you have access to me and my time and energy all the time, always. I am open for business to you because I feel like I need to be. But that's where I want you to think about switching your mindset and what you believe about setting boundaries around those three areas, because there will be times where you feel like I'm exhausted and I don't feel like I can say yes, but I have to because it's work, or I have to because it's my aunt, or I have to because it's my partner. You're the only one who's saying that you have to do it. You're the only one who is holding yourself to that obligation or to that idea that you can't set the boundary, right? And so when we can get aligned with our boundaries on an energetic level, when we can get behind, like, you know what? On these days, I'm going to set aside time for myself, or on these days, I will gladly volunteer to work overtime, or on these days, I will set aside time to hang out with friends, family, whatever, right? But to be 7-Eleven open all the time, right? How does that help you? When do you have time then to do what you need to do to make yourself a priority, right? To fill your own cup. And it's really easy to get lost in this whole idea that we can't set boundaries because we're not allowed. But I want you to ask yourself, says who? Who said that I'm not allowed to set boundaries around family, that I'm not allowed to set boundaries around a relationship, that I'm not allowed to set boundaries around my job? And I will give you 3 real life examples of, for, myself, for when I set boundaries around these things. So let me actually take a step back, right? Because I used to set boundaries all the time, and I used to be like, I'm not gonna work late on these days, or I'm not gonna work 7 days a week, because that's what my life was for a long time way back when. Or I'm not gonna put up with this bullshit in my relationship anymore. So these things were points of irritation in my life, right? They were not amazing. And there were things I always used to complain about. But I wasn't doing anything about it. I wasn't, my boss said, hey, can you work 3 extra hours today? I was not the one saying no. I was still saying yes, even though in my mind I was like, fuck, like, no, I don't want to. Like, I'm working like 12 hours a day or whatever, Or when, my ex at the time would like go out and get drunk and be a dick when he got home. And I was like, fuck this, I'm not putting up with it. This is the last time. Like, we've all been in those places where we're like, fuck, no more. And then we continue to put up with it, right? We lose our nerve. And really, we can sit here and be like, well, it's easier said than done to set boundaries. But that's some bullshit right there. Because it isn't easier said than done. It's just as easy to do it as it is to say it. If I say no, then I back up my no with non-action, right? Then I back up my no with, no, sorry, I can't work late today. And I do what I needed to do or what I wanted to do instead, right? Or the example of my ex, I was like, no more. And I left him. Or, with family where it was like, there was a situation in which I felt like I had to kind of step up in a way that I didn't really need to. But it was kind of this unspoken sort of expectation. And I didn't say anything. I just kind of stopped showing up that way. And it was all good. It was cool. It was respected. And I get it. Like, that may not be the case for everyone. However, you will never know unless you do it. And I've got a buttload of clients who, were brave and they set that boundary with their partner, their family, or their job. And they're so much happier for it now because now they don't feel that resentment, that feeling of, oh, I have to do this. Like, no, you don't have to by anybody else's standards but your own. So what I want you to do is think about, what are the rules of my life? What do I have to do versus not so much? And the thing is that, like I said, we carry on our subconscious programming because it's there. And so we have these kind of modal operators is what they're called, where we say, well, I can't do this, or I can do that, or I have to do this, or I don't have to do that. They're little rules that we implement, but that we don't actually think about, like, well, why? Why do I have to? Or why can't I? Why? And as someone who asks why a lot, I feel like rules are a big thing for me, in terms of they have to fucking make sense or I just don't do it. If it's arbitrary, I couldn't give a fuck less about it. That's just been me. And even in my corporate job, that was kind of how I went about things. I was just like, that rule doesn't make any sense. It is a literal arbitrary rule. So I'm not going to do it. And, like, there were absolutely times where, like, there was this kind of tension between my boss and me, but it was like, give me a reason. Like, I don't really see how this is even a thing. It doesn't affect me. It's not affecting my job. So whatever. That was just kind of how I went about it. And for me, like I said, if I don't understand why, and I'm not just talking about rules that like other people have placed on me. I'm talking about rules that I have, kind of set for myself. If there's not a good reason for it, if I can't back it up with something that feels good, I just don't do it. And again, that's just kind of my personality. But this is what I mean by it's easy to say and easy to do. It's not easier to say it than it is to do it. Just fucking do it, right? And that's, I think, where we get lost, is we feel like, well, that's easier said than done. And that's a bullshit idea that you perpetuate all the time by continuing to say. But the truth is, your words really are not as powerful, not as potent as your actions. So, I mean, they are, obviously. They are very powerful. They are very potent. But what you do means just as much. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you say, I'm not going to put up with that anymore, and you do it anyways, what you're doing is effectively losing authority in the eyes of your subconscious mind. So your subconscious mind is always going to continue to look outside of you for someone to tell you what to do. Oh, that person said you can't set boundaries around this, then I guess we can't set boundaries around it. So, do you want to be disempowered or do you want to be empowered? It's really that simple. And you can empower yourself at any moment in time by just doing what you say you're going to do. So, if you say you're not going to put up with something anymore, mean it. Take the action to not put up with it anymore, right? Or the non-action, however that works. But do it. Back yourself, because the more you don't, the more you disempower you. You are at cause for that. And it's not that we need to beat ourselves up over the fact that, we didn't uphold the boundary, we didn't do what we said we were going to do, or whatever it is. It's not that we need to get mad about it or start judging ourselves about it. It's not about that. It is about recognizing where we could use to do the work, right? So maybe you need to set a boundary for yourself around procrastinating, or around saying things and then not following through with them. And when I say that, what I mean is to yourself, right? So when you're like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to set that boundary. Oh, yeah, I'm going to start to do this. Oh, yeah, I'm going to start to get up earlier. Oh, yeah, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. We don't do it, and we don't do it, and we don't do it. Set the boundary to, instead of saying what you're going to do, just do the damn thing. And I say this with love. I say this as a person who was there before, who was always like, well, I'm going to set that boundary and I'm not going to do that anymore and blah, blah, blah. Like, all the fucking time. Until I realized I'm not fucking getting anywhere because I'm not holding myself accountable. Because I'm living at effect. And where is that getting me? Fucking nowhere. Waiting for other people to tell me I can do what I want to do, or say what I want to say, or think how I want to think, or what the fuck ever. No, thank you. No, thank you. I'm not about that life. Especially now that I realized how good being empowered feels, and how good it feels to have the boundaries, set the rules that I fucking want to set in my own life, and then act from those places. It really isn't that difficult. So, like I said, the idea that easier said than done is the ultimate truth is solely something you are perpetuating by continuing to say it, right? And we've heard that expression since we were young, so it's like built in to our subconscious programming already. So, take a moment and ask yourself, well, what am I losing by not doing this? Right? What do I gain by doing it? So when we think about it in terms of, well, what do I gain by actually taking the fucking action, stepping up, being at cause for my life, oh, I get to have the life that I'm creating. I get to have a reality that matches what I really, really want. Fuck. So much easier then to do it than to say that I'm going to do it and then feel kind of blah about not following through with it, right? So set the boundaries, right? And like I said, think about what those rules are for your life. What are your haves? What do you have to do? Or what do you not have to do? Or what can't you do versus what can you do? What shouldn't you do versus what should you do? So think about all those things, those rules that we have, haven't, should, shouldn't, can, can't, do, don't, all that stuff, right? Think about all those rules that you essentially have set and why there are even rules in your life in the first place. Because when you recognize that you're following rules that were set by others that you don't maybe necessarily even need or want to follow any longer, then it's a little bit easier to set the boundary because then you recognize, you're aware of, oh, I was like living in these rules that were set by other people and I don't really need to do that. And now that I've set my own rules, it's so much easier to set my own boundaries, right? So, empower the fuck out of yourself, right? Like, that is what I want for you. So, set the damn boundaries, stand up for yourself, stand behind those boundaries, say no when you mean no, and yes when you mean yes. Not out of obligation, not out of have to, right? Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox here. If you have any questions, let me know. I will leave all my links below. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.